Hey everybody, Darren here with Renaissance Coders. Thanks for joining us for another tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about the new Unity 5.6 video player. This is a great new feature if your project involves videos, and it's really easy to get something up and running fairly quickly. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the major functions, events, and properties within the video player API. We're going to be implementing those together here today. We have this user interface that I'm not going to talk about how to implement because it would just take too long to actually talk about placing these and setting up the events for triggering certain functions. That's sort of a topic for another video. However, if this video gets to, let's say, 100 likes, then I will gladly make a video implementing this user interface for you. But what we're going to be talking about is how to get a video to essentially load. So as you can see, we can load videos here. We want to talk about how to play, how to increase playback speed, decrease playback speed. We could talk about looping. So as this finishes, it'll start back at the beginning. And if you haven't noticed, I'm paying attention to this blue progress bar down here. That's basically the progress of the video. Now we also have this orange jump bar, which allows us to seek to different positions within the video. So I can seek to different locations here. Okay, so we're going to be talking about some of those major functions, and the next step is to actually create the video controller script that manages all of this. And let's go ahead and create that and see what contents need to be added. So what I'm going to do is come down to my scripts folder here and create a new C# script called video controller. Okay, we're going to open that in just a second. What I want to do is show you the video player component. So all you need to do is go to add component and then choose video player. And once you press enter, you'll get this component showing up on your object. This can be on an empty object if you want. You have two options for source. We're choosing URL. This basically gives us the ability to just browse a file path. And so what we're going to be doing is passing the URL path of the video that we want to play. And that's essentially half of the process of loading a new video. I choose not to play on awake. In this instance, all that means is right whenever a new video is loaded, it's not going to start playing right away. And then we have wait for first frame. We have loop, playback speed. A lot of these are pretty self-explanatory. We have the render mode. So if we choose camera far plane, then we will be able to see objects come in between our camera and our actual video. If we choose the camera near plane, then no objects can actually obstruct the video. We can choose to use a render texture, a material override if we want to put that on an object, and API only. I don't exactly know what that is. I haven't played around with that yet, but I'm sure it's not essential. So the easiest thing to do, in my opinion, is to choose one of these camera planes. So choose camera near plane, and then you can just drag your camera object onto that, and you won't have any issues with where to render your video. Then we have the alpha, which is a really cool feature for video players. It's not something that's common with a lot of the third-party tools I've used in the past. Then we have fit vertically or horizontally. I haven't used inside, outside, or stretch, although I'm assuming stretch just means it doesn't maintain aspect. But fit horizontally and fit vertically will both maintain the aspect ratio of the video. So those are very useful, especially whenever you're using the camera to render. And we're not going to be talking about audio output mode in this tutorial. Okay, so once we have that, we want to make sure that we're putting our video controller on the same object. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and open up our video controller. And again, this video is only going to be talking about how to implement each one of those functions. So playing, pausing, restarting, and etc. Okay, so inside our video controller script, we're going to get rid of some of the stuff that we're not going to be using and add some new things. We are going to be using Unity Engine.video, and I'm also going to be referencing a slider UI element in this script. So I need unityengine.ui. So that's one UI element that we will be going over. Okay, so we need a public video reference to our video player. That's the Unity video player, and it's because of this data type that we need to use this using statement. And we'll have a public reference to our slider. Now I want to talk about some properties of the video player. The first one that we're going to add here is one that isn't actually implemented directly for us, and that is determining whether the video is done. And now I'm just going to add some of the properties that are commonly going to be used as public properties. These are variables that you might need to be accessing from outside of the video controller. So these are just some common properties that most video players will provide for you. Okay, so what is our is playing property going to return? So what we can say in here is just say get return video dot is playing, and that's a property that the Unity's video player is going to give us. For is looping, we can say return video dot is looping. For is prepared, now is prepared is talking about whenever we actually assign a URL and we call the prepare function. There's just some back-end stuff that I'm not exactly sure what's going on under the hood, but there's some back-end stuff that takes some time, especially if the video is longer or if there's certain properties associated with the videos that takes time for Unity to process. I don't exactly know the back-end stuff of it, but is prepared will be set to true whenever the video can actually be played. So you can't actually do anything with the video until this is true. Is done is just going to be returning the boolean that we created up top. So we can just say return is done there. Okay, time, we have video.time, and this is going to be the current time of the video on that progress bar in seconds. We have a ulong duration. This is going to return, and I'll actually cast this into a ulong. What we can say is video.frameCount, because we don't actually have a duration variable from the video player API directly, but we can say video.frameCount divided by video.frame rate, and that frame rate is frames per second. So when we divide the frames divided by frames per second, then we essentially cross out the frames unit, and we are left with seconds, thus giving us a ulong in duration. Okay, and then we have end time, which is like time of our video from a scale of 0 to 1. And what we can do here is just say return time divided by duration. Okay, and that's this time property and this duration property. And again, this is going to give us a value no less than 0 and no greater than the duration of our video, which is of course what we would want. And we're going to use this property directly with our slider, because sliders only operate on a scale from 0 to 1, and that is our main purpose for including this end time property. Okay, next I want to talk about some of the events associated with the video player class, and what we're going to be doing with all events. As always, the first thing we want to do is create our on enable and on disable. These are Unity event functions that will be called when a component is enabled and when a component is disabled. And this is where we want to subscribe and unsubscribe to events. So we have a reference to our video, and we're going to be using that to access the video player events. And here are some of the main events that I could find within the API. Okay, so we have a video.error received. This will let us know what error the video player has encountered. Frame ready will be invoked every time a frame within the video is ready. They warn us in the API docs that this is CPU intensive. We have loop point reached, which is the event that we're going to be using to determine if is done is true. Loop point reached means that we've reached the end of the video. Prepare completed. This lets us know that we're ready to call certain functions on the video, such as play or restart, or some playback speed changes, things like that. Seek completed, anytime we move on our jump bar, this will be invoked, and then started will let us know if, of course, the video is started. Now, anytime we subscribe to functions, we want to make sure that we unsubscribe to those. This is just good practice. If you ever wonder why people do this, it's because when you have multiple instances of a component, then things can get really confusing. Errors can get really confusing to trace whenever you aren't disabling these subscriptions to events. Okay, so it's really an issue whenever you have multiple instances of a component. All right, now you can see that I'm just saying plus equals here. What does that exactly mean when I'm subscribing to these events? Well, on the left side of the plus equals operator, that's going to be the actual event in the video player class. On the right side, that should be a function that gets invoked due to the event raising a flag. So this function should be implemented within my class. I need to have a function for each one of these. So error received, frame ready, loop point reached, prepare completed, seek completed, and started. I need to have a function for each one of those within my class. So let's go ahead and add those quickly. Okay, so why do we need these event functions? Well, they're really useful whenever we are debugging the video player. If we have things going wrong and we're not really sure why they're going wrong, this is where these event functions really come in handy, because they're going to pull the information necessary, most likely, to debug our issues. And typically what we'll put in these is just some debug.log statements telling us what's going on. So here we could say something like video player error, and then just add the message that's coming in through this function. You're going to receive some errors if your error receive function isn't using the correct parameters. These parameters are the parameters that are being used on the video player's class side. So those need to match up. Now this is the one that has the CPU tax. That's because this is being invoked every time a new frame is, put a comma there for some reason. This is being invoked every time a new frame becomes ready. So for however many frames you have in your video, which is probably a lot, this is going to be getting invoked. And debug logs are just expensive on their own, so I'm not going to put anything in there. And same sort of stuff for this. We want to have debug logs telling us that the loop point is reached, and this is where we actually want to say that is done is true. For prepare completed, we also want to say that is done is equal to false, because if prepare completed is invoked, that indicates that a new video was loaded, and is done should be set to false. And that's similar, for that similar reason, we're setting it to is false within the seek completed. Because if the video finishes and is done gets set to true, and then we actually seek back without restarting the video, if we actually seek back in the video, then is done should be false. And for started, I'm just going to put another debug log in there. Okay, so these are all of our sort of debug events. These are very useful to have. This is just for the sake of being complete, and it's good to know this stuff. It can really save a lot of time when it comes to debugging. Okay, there's one more thing to add before we actually get into the major functions of the video controller, and that is updating the progress bar. Now I added that slider reference up at the top because I want to be updating that within the video controller class. It's really convenient because I have this public double end time property, and that's on a scale from 0 to 1, so it really works well with the slider class, because all I need to do is say slider.value equals the float value, because this value property is a float, so I need to cast this into a float end time, because our end time property is actually a double. Okay, now I don't actually want to be updating the slider if there's no video, so something that might be smart for me to do is say if is prepared is false, then I just want to return. If I'm not prepared, if the video isn't prepared, I have nothing to update for the slider. So I don't want to be taking any chances with this being buggy or anything like that. So I'm not going to be doing anything with the video, and we're going to be seeing this this sort of theme throughout the rest of our functions in this class. Okay, so next what I want to do is add the major functions that we're going to be using from those UI elements. And that is like load video, play video, pause video, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to draw out the skeleton of these functions first, and then I'll go down one by one and talk about the contents of each of those. Okay, so here's the skeleton for the most important functions within this class, the functions that will actually be manipulating the video playback. Let's start off with load video. Let's see what the contents of load video need to be. What I want to do is define a string called temp and set that equal to the path of what our video should be located at based on the name. This name should be the name that's going to be passed here is going to be the actual name of the file. It's not going to be the name of the path. And the reason for that is because it's more user friendly. Whoever's calling this load video function outside of this class, I don't want to make them go through the headaches of finding that path, so I'm going to do that for them. And the way we're going to do that is call application.dataPath and say plus, and this is the location of my video. This data path is going to bring you to the assets base folder. So my videos are located in assets / videos / and then whatever the name of the video is plus name. Now normally we would want to also add the extension here. So let me put this in comments because this is pretty important. So whether your video is a .mp4 or .avi or a .mov, we want to add that into the string here. I'm not going to do that because I'm actually including the extension in the name. And the reason I'm doing that is because I have videos with different extensions. So I need to define that outside. And that's my personal case. Maybe you need to do that as well, but maybe not. Regardless, you need to know that the extension needs to be included on the actual string value that we're using here, because the extension is going to determine how the video player class processes the video. So what are we doing with this temp? Well, what we want to say is if the video.url is equal to temp, then we're just going to return. The reason for this is because I don't want to load a video that's already been loaded. There's no point in doing that. Okay, and that's the reason for creating the temp. Now, if we get beyond this point, it means that our video URL is not equal to the temp. So at this point, we can say video.url is equal to temp, and then we could say video.prepare, and it's that easy. This is going to run the processing logic for initializing the video. This is where we don't really know what's going on, and we don't really care because we kind of trust Unity to take care of that for us. Now, once it's done preparing, this event will be invoked, and we can say the video player finished preparing is done as false, and we can actually start updating the slider. There's a couple things I want to add in here actually, some interesting things within the API that we can talk about, and we're going to be outputting some of this information into several debug.log statements. So we can actually determine if we can set direct audio volume. And all of these debug logs that I'm adding here are going to deal with properties that aren't always true from video to video. Apparently it's on a video to video basis. I don't quite understand how it's working, but based on the video that you pass it, certain properties won't be able to be set. So we can say video.can set direct audio volume. We're going to copy and paste this actually to save a little bit of time. And so we want to know if we can set the playback speed, which is actually something we're going to be doing in this video. and something that I showed in the beginning of the video. And it's not something that you can do on all videos apparently, but we want to be able to determine if we can. So whenever we load each video, we can determine if we can set direct audio volume, if we can set playback speed, if we can set skip on drop. I haven't actually tested this to see what it actually does. I played around with it a little bit, but I can't get any confirmation on what this actually means. And I can't find anybody who's messed around with that yet. So if you have any clue on or indication on what that does, definitely put some comments down below. We can determine if we can set the time. This is useful for seeking at different parts of the video. We actually saw that in the beginning of this tutorial where I was jumping around to different locations. So certain videos don't have that capability, and we want to be able to know that whenever we load the video. Can step. There's actually a method that we aren't implementing in this tutorial. It's video, I think it's step forward, and this steps forward 1 frame within the video. I don't find that useful at all. I just, whenever I've used video players in the past, I just haven't had any need to have that sort of function. But that function steps it forward one frame, and this bool will tell you if you can do that or not. Okay, so that's the load video function. The other ones are really simple. That one just required a little bit more work. Now, in the play video and in a lot of these other functions, the first thing we can check is if the video is prepared or not. And if it's not prepared, we can just return. We can't play a video that isn't prepared, right? And after that, we can just say video.play. For pause video, very similar logic. All we're doing is seeing if it's playing. And actually, I should also add if it's prepared here. Although in my specific case, we can't actually press the pause button unless the video is playing. So I think that's why I did this. That pause button doesn't become accessible until the video is playing, so this still makes sense. I don't actually need to check if it's prepared. Then we have the restart video. Restart video, we want to check if is prepared is true. If it's not, then we return. Then I pause the video because I'm not sure. There might be a case where I'm restarting the video without stopping or pausing, and that could be problematic. So I go ahead and pause the video, and then I seek to 0. Now I have that seek function defined here, and we'll get to that in just a second. But this is just telling me that since I'm restarting, I want to go back to the first frame, which is the 0th frame. Now loop video, we're going to check again if we're not prepared, we can return. And then I just want to set video.isLooping to toggle. So isLooping is a property within the video player class. Okay, now let's talk about seek. Another pretty simple function here, but actually seeking and setting playback speed are things that are dependent on the video that you're playing with the video player. Sometimes you can't use these functions. So we'll check to see if it's prepared. If it's not, then we can return. We're going to set end time. This value that's passed into this function needs to be a value from 0 to 1. And so to make sure that that is the case, we're going to say end time is equal to mathf.clamp. And people kind of laugh at me when I do this sometimes because it should be the case that Unity clamps these values for you, and they probably do, but I sort of get paranoid about these things. I just want to make sure everything's working properly. So I make sure that I clamp that value between 0 and 1, and then I set the video.time to end time, which is the value from 0 to 1 times duration. So this value cannot be less than 0, and it can't be greater than the duration of the video. In other words, we can't seek anywhere outside the bounds of the video time, and we set video time equal to that. Now I read somewhere in the docs that you can set the frame, although I haven't actually done that, and I can't verify that that's possible yet. And it might be something that they're going to implement later, but I couldn't see the property to set to actually set the frame. So I set the time. It works well, and it should work for you guys as well. Okay, let's talk about increment playback speed and decrement playback speed. So here, what I'm going to do, just to change things up a little bit, is I'll say, if video can set the playback speed. So if not video.can set playback speed. If the video can't set the playback speed, we can return. And I could actually say something similar up here. I think we have that property in the load function. If can set time. So I can also put that up here, and that would make sense. So let's just say, for the sake of being complete, in the seek function, if not video.can set time, then we can return. So if we can't set the time, then we'll return there. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. If that's not possible for this video, then I'm not even going to attempt the process of doing it. But we can say video.playback speed. Nope. Playback speed plus equals 1. This value is of course arbitrary. You can set that to whatever you want. You can set that to 0.025 or 0.01, whatever you want. The thing to note here is that it's bounded. Well, actually, I'm going to write a clamp function down here because I'm paranoid. The video playback speed is bounded, of course, by 0 and 10. 10 is their max. You can't go below 0, otherwise the video would theoretically be going in reverse, and the video player doesn't support that. So we can say video.playback speed equals mathf.clamp video.playback speed, and the clamp value is 0 to 10. This is really similar, of course, for decrement playback speed. The only difference is that we're going to be, I think all we need to do is say that this is minus equals 1. That's the only thing that we're changing with decrement. Okay, and that is the video controller class. Let's go back to Unity just to make sure I got everything correct, and we'll see if anything needs to be corrected. Okay, so we have a few errors here. It looks like I messed up somewhere, so let's go ahead and see where this is at. Okay, it looks like I messed up on this property a little bit. I must have been distracted, but time is a double, not a bool. And we want to return that, not just expect the compiler to know what we're talking about. Okay, I think that's going to fix our errors. Let's go back to Unity and see if that helped. Okay, so basically to get the video controller working, I just needed to hook up the video time script here and the jump bar script here. Like I said, I'm not going to be going over the UI aspect of this project unless, of course, the video gets 100 likes. If the video gets 100 likes, I will create a tutorial walking through the UI aspect of this. Everything from page animations to the actual button events. But as far as the video topic is concerned, we covered the VideoPlayer API. We can actually see the progression of our video. We can jump to different locations within the video, and we can load videos, and we have our video time showing up here, all based on the functions that we implemented in this tutorial. So getting into the UI is going to take too much time, and it's not really related to the topic. Yeah, so if we hit 100 likes, I'll gladly do it, but otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you learned what you came here to learn, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.